Hello, everyone, and welcome to our next race reveal. Um, we initially thought about making this a whole podcast, but then we realized we didn't really have that many interesting topics and we didn't want to bore all of you. I figured it's the end of Stint 2, so I should at least say a few words. Don't worry, I'm gonna try to keep it short, and you're gonna find timestamps in the description for things you're interested in. First off, I'm gonna tackle the race reveal. After that, we're gonna talk about a change in the race calendar. And afterwards, I'm gonna talk about a new system we want to introduce for the next season. And I'm gonna finish off with donation and rewards. That's what we're gonna talk about in the end of this video. As you might have already seen the poll we have made earlier. Okay, well, let's begin with the race reveal. So we're heading to Brazil this time, to Sao Paulo, which is, according to the legend of our league, one of Tibizalek's favorite tracks. So we're gonna probably see some exciting race action. If we think about how with Rex return to Bahrain, we've already had a 1-2 for Ferrari, Mercedes just behind. Of course, there's some debate about the safety cars and the early end of the race. But I think it's going to be an interesting race, at least. Sao Paulo is famous for being hard to overtake in, so qualifying is going to be very important, and I think it's going to be a tough race for both Tom and TP's Alex, the main contenders, considering how important qualifying is and how important it's going to be to have a good race there. It could already be one of the deciding factors in the championship, to be honest, so I think that's going to be very interesting. We've also decided that the last race is not going to take place on the 19th of May. It's going to change to the 26th of May. Reason for that being is, as I've already teased a lot, and as we've said, we wanted to prepare something special for the final race. And just to give us some time to actually do it, we're going to move it 1 week behind. I'm sorry if this creates any issues for someone's schedule. But sadly, it's just not, like, with the way we're trying to do it, it's not going to be possible to hold it like directly after, because we'd have to reveal the race. We would have to reveal the race on the same day as the other race ends. And so, we also can't talk about how the championship looks at that time. If anything major changes in that time, the way I'm creating the video, it would also perhaps not even make sense to do it that way. So we just need a week. So it's going to be on the 26th instead of the 19th. Just we're going to update the calendar as well. A thing you can look forward to for next season is probably going to be the PPR system that we want to introduce. A few of you already noticed that we included a new channel for that in Discord. We we haven't exactly worked out the system because the races are still ongoing, but PPR means points per race. So as you may have noticed this season, there have been a few teams that were within the legal limits of what you could form as a team. I mean, obviously, I'm part of Mercedes, and Mercedes is kind of an outlier because we're such a strong team in terms of what we can do points-wise in constructors. So for next season, we wanted to introduce a system that would make it harder for those teams to form, because people with a certain points per race couldn't team up with each other anymore. So for example, a super team like Mercedes has right now wouldn't be possible to be formed. Perhaps even Ferrari could have still been formed, considering that Rex didn't attend that many races, but probably also wouldn't have been able to form. So we're just trying to essentially introduce a system that would make it a bit more equal to the whole field. So, you have some more surprises as to where the journey goes, so to speak. Like, let's say someone like majorly improves over a season and suddenly, they are leading the constructors because of that. Yeah, we just think that would be a bit more interesting than just having a regular system where it's a bit luck dependent, how good your teammate is and how often he shows up. Essentially having a system where it's more equal and closer in the Constructors' Championship, because you can't just pick a top 10 driver if you're a top 3 driver, or, in this case, you have like the top 2 driver pairing up with the top 4 driver, and then it becomes really unfair for the other teams to try and catch up in the constructors, especially if they can't make a race. Same goes for probably like some of the midfield teams. Naturally, you're probably, like, if you don't care about that, you're probably still going to be able to just pick your teammate if you're not that interested in, picking like a high skill teammate or something like that. But we're still trying to work it out. We might also try to essentially assign teams based on PPR, but I don't know. We're not sure. Just a heads up that for next season, we're working on that PPR system. Like, the PPR system is definitely going to come. We're just not sure how exactly we're going to implement it. So so the final topic coming up would be the donations and possible rewards. You may remember that Infeed posted a poll a few weeks ago, I think. That was like just a little test run because we were interested to see if people were willing to donate. We probably would still introduce some systems that we want to introduce regardless of if people donate, actually. We just thought we'd give you like an actual information as to what we want to do with the money, because we know that it's a bit, it's always a bit weird to ask for money, because first of all, it's money. Second of all, this is just a fun league, it's not supposed to be like super professional or, demand money from you. So first of all, naturally, none of that money will go towards us in a way. Like, I don't know how to explain, but we're not gonna take any of the money like for ourselves. I think that's pretty clear. We have some ideas of what we would like to do for the league, and for that we kind of need money. And money for us too is also, and for Joppe as well, is also not that easy to just get by and invest so much into the league. I think I've told a few drivers already, this for us sometimes feels like a half-time job. I remember we spent like, how much did we spend on Bahrain? I think we spent like, or at least I don't know how it is for Infeed and Joppe, but I spent, I think, at least 8 hours investigating incidents, finding out how to solve the race results and stuff like that. So and that's just Bahrain. So we're like spending a lot of time on it, but we don't want any money for that. We just have some things. For example, an idea that we floated around was giving the winner the next game. So in this case, it would be F1 25. We're probably not gonna do that, though I'm not gonna say we won't do it. We might do it, but probably not. Reason being, we thought that we try to think of the perspective from some other drivers, right? If you donate something, you mean, it's a donation. Okay, you might not expect anything, but if it was me, I would probably expect something as a return, right? So we thought, okay, so how many drivers are there actually that realistically have like a chance of being first? And that's like maybe 3-4 people, right? You got like TB's Alex, Rex, Tom, Joppe, and Feed. Okay, maybe that's 5. We're aiming to be a 20-man league, right? So having like a prize that's 50 euros financed by donations for 5 people seems a bit steep, right? So that's why we thought like that's not really, it's not really a fair way to spend the donation money, because it's like only affecting such a small group. So we pondered the idea. There's actually like a very cheap, but like still good quality wise, but there's like rather cheap trophies that you can order. And we thought about awarding trophies to the drivers, like, top 3 constructors, top 3 drivers, to spread it out a bit more, because I think it's easier to get in the constructors with someone, right? Like, if you look at the standings, for example, with Haas, they have a chance of being third in constructors. Kronks definitely isn't like in the top 3 of drivers. He's not a contender. He would get a trophy. So, that felt so incredibly mean to say that, but you know what I mean. So that's just what we have been floating around, to give it to like a greater market pool, we also thought about like a sort of yearly trophy that is specifically designed to go into the midfield or like the bottom of the field for, fair play, for I'm not gonna say this is gonna be the trophy we're gonna get, so just limiting expectations here. But for example, the return of Capos and Prix with Aston Martin and suddenly getting so many points, like maybe a trophy like comeback of the year 2025 season 3 Nordic virtual, something like that, like just a prize for a team that has, despite not being like super high in the constructors or the drivers, that has like excelled in that regard. Or something like, Batman scoring really high all of a sudden, stuff like that. Maybe something like, oh, most improved driver this season. So just something that goes to like someone in the backfield that has done something incredible that we wanted to award. It could also be just fair play, if someone, excels by just being super fair, you can always rely on that guy to make space. You can always rely on that guy to race you fairly. Something like that. We've also floated some ideas around. I know a band that could possibly make some real songs for us. I mean, I might still write the lyrics for it, but they could probably perform it, like really perform it. So we could probably use some of the donation money, depending on how much we get, to actually have like a real title song for season 4 or something like that. I think that would go towards everyone. We could also see if we can, improve the league a bit more in terms of quality of editing or stuff like that. I know some editors who would probably edit some, highlight reels for us if I provided the footage. So, that way that would just take some workload off of us so we could focus on other things of managing the league. And I think it would be fairly awesome if we had like someone really editing the league for us, include highlights of everyone. There's only so much that I know about editing, and only so much that I can do with effects and stuff like that. So I think that would be a very cool thing to have that would affect everyone as well. Obviously, if you have any other ideas what we could use the money for that would benefit everyone in the league, we would be very grateful for that. Other than that, I can just say that obviously, I think that also needs to be mentioned. We're not gonna use, or if you donate, you're not really getting any benefit, right? Because like the way that we want to keep the league is that you donate because you want to see the league improve in certain things, or because you think that is a cool idea to sponsor alongside with us. Like, we're obviously gonna donate some of our own money into it, but like, you're not gonna get any benefit, at least none that we have thought up, that wouldn't mess up with the league, because we want to keep it fair to anyone who doesn't want to or can't donate. So you're like not getting you're not getting anything that would impact the league. You're not gonna, I don't know, get a penalty removed or some bullshit like that. I don't know. I can't really think of anything that would even impact the league that we could do. So I don't know. Maybe you get to watch a steward session, although we just handed that out as a penalty. So I don't know how you would want to receive a penalty. I don't know. Yeah, those were just some ideas we were floating around. As I said, you don't need to donate. There's not going to be any benefit. We're not going to see you differently. But we would be very happy if you would donate, and we're going to try to spend that money very wisely on stuff for the league.